This is Martin Brossman with Mike Phillips, and I want to talk today about the LinkedIn group for podcasting, the podcasting technology group that I started years ago, but the only reason it's great is because of terrific people, and Mike Phillips has helped out with that. And now we've created a Google community. And before I go any further, Mike, would you just say hello and introduce yourself?
Well, thanks for having me this morning, Martin. I'm, I guess what you're saying, a hacker from way back. I love technology. My background was in broadcasting, and something that I've always loved. Video is sort of a new thing for me because back in the old days, we struggled to get decent audio. Now audio is pretty straightforward, and even HD video is available. So it's a new world out there, and I'm kind of like a kid in a candy store.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you know, I met a broadcaster, and he was a funny guy. He said, "I've got a face that only radio would love," or something like that.
Face for radio.
Face for radio. That's it. So, just to give a brief history, the podcasting technology group really started in the Yahoo groups, and I built it because I was on a radio show for my first book. And it was Nikki and Beth in the morning, and I had so much fun being on the radio with them. I was the male expert for my first book, which is actually leading a men's group for 12 years. And I had such a good time on that. I was just excited. I would go every morning and drive to her house, and then was broadcast to the beach. And then one morning, I got up and I tried to contact him and looked him up on the web, and there was no evidence of her. Well, Nikki didn't answer the phone, and I reached Beth, her partner, and Nikki was from one of the radio stations, and I found out that a conflict had occurred with the station, and the station owner wiped them off the air over the weekend, which I know from radio, you know the story, right, Mike?
Happens all the time.
Yeah. And so I've learned the drama radio, and I went, oh my God, I really enjoyed this. You know, it's gone. And then I learned about podcasting, and I think I jumped in with everything I could. And now I have a little studio when we extended the house I got into podcasting because I went, my gosh, how am I going to get our radio show? Why don't I make my own? And that's what introduced me. Then, of course, I wanted to learn more, and I thought I looked for a community that was active, and in Yahoo, a lot had just turned to trash. You know, they weren't monitored. And I created that, and then, of course, using and teaching in 2006 LinkedIn, I thought, well, that's a good place to have a community, and I was just so moved by the qualifications and the brilliance of the people coming into the community. I look at their LinkedIn profile and go, we've got some real powerhouses here. And then you came along and helped out. I had aging parents issues, helping it with this. And would you say something a little bit about the LinkedIn community, and then we'll go on to the evolution of how it's changed?
It's a very interesting group. It's probably, in fact, it is the first LinkedIn group in which I've actively participated. Mm-hmm. Now, let's be honest and upfront. The group is very heavily moderated. That's not a negative. That's a positive. And I think even though the moderation is heavy-handed, it seems to me to be extremely fair. Certainly, whenever I'm in a position to look and to whack something that may not need to be there, you stop and think about it. Is this really beyond the pale? Does it really establish what the group is trying to do? And to be fair, there is a promotion flag so that when people come in there, and even regulars who promote something that really doesn't add to the discussion of podcasting, we don't just whack it and say go away. We send it over to a promotions group. So at least there's a level B that they can achieve without hopefully being offended. There are so many groups on LinkedIn. I'm probably a member of 50 of them, and they're just so full of garbage and promotion and nonsense that they're just not readable. And hats off to you, Martin, because this group, I think, is, and for what little bit of the role I play in it, I'm proud of it, in that I think it is a very well run group. I think that its growth and participation speaks to that, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Well, I really need to make sure to say it's because of the moderators, especially you, that made it great. Because when I started it, I did start the policy of no tolerance for spam, and part of that is this isn't a paid job for me. I'm self-employed. I can't. I don't mean to use the word, but I know a better one. I can't babysit. We have to. If people act out, we don't give them multiple warning signs, they're gone. And it's pretty clear in the group if you come in to say, hey, buy my widget in a podcasting group talking about technology, that you're not there to add to the community. And I don't have the time or resources, again, it's not paid for any of us, to be able to write multiple notes and say, hey, please do a better behavior. I mean, you get that when you write a big check for something, in my view.
Right. Well, the spam posts are the easy ones. They just get whacked.
Right.
And thankfully there are not that many of them, because it is a pretty upscale group. The difficult ones are from the regular members who want to promote and need to promote their podcasts and their services, but the forum is just not the perfect place for that. Those are the ones that really take some thought and deliberation, because you don't want to offend any of your regular members. You want them to feel comfortable posting things in there, but those posts need to be on point, and they need to advance the topic podcasting of broad interest to the entire group.
Absolutely, and that's the mission of doing just that. So then we have several other moderators. We'll get them on at some point to introduce them as well. But I just wanted to talk to you today about this, and then the creation of the Google communities. Again, part of the reason of creating the LinkedIn group was not just having the discussion about podcasting, but get good quality people to learn how to make a group work. And that's also part of the reason of creating the community in Google. Google just created this new community under Google+, and the idea is to see how the structure of it and how it works will make the community different, and with the intention of keeping it as good quality, and that's a work in progress right now. You want to add anything to that, Mike?
The communities thing actually caught me off guard, because at least initially, I'm not a big Google Plus fan. To me, it's kind of the same thing again. Google's trying to come up with their own spin on it, but all of a sudden I started getting all of these invitations to join communities from people with whom I interact on a regular basis. And I said, wait a minute, what is this going on here? So I looked into it. But what was so bizarre is how many people were jumping on the bandwagon so quickly. I mean, at this point in time, as of today, there are 99 members in the podcasting community, the podcasting technology community. There are other communities for the same topic. I have also joined communities for various topics. Last night, because I recognized that, I think it was last night, I recognized that these communities are really growing. I did some quick testing, kind of like grabbing early domain names to see what's available. I started doing some grabbing of various community titles, one of which is a very famous manufacturing company with whom I know the owner's son. I grabbed it and I immediately got up with him on Google. Actually, I got up with him through Facebook, and I said, I grabbed this for you. You need to log in. Let me send you an invitation so I can give you the ownership of this community. Well, I don't know if we want to do that. And I said, no, you have to control this, even if you don't want to do anything with it. It's your brand. He logged in, he saw it, and he said, wow, I had no idea. He said, I'm not a Google Hangout person. I'm not a Google Plus person either. But he said, you're absolutely right. If these communities continue to grow and prosper as they have done, at least based on the initial rollout, he said, this could be something important going forward. So I appreciate you grabbing that for me. So I grabbed it, gave him the ownership of it, and then removed myself as owner. He now has absolute ownership of it, just as if he had done so himself. So it's it's right now at the very beginning phase of the entire Google community thing, and at this point, I'm approaching it with optimism that it's going to grow into something useful. I did grab some very interesting ones that I think would be useful for me going forward as this continues to develop. You may remember, Martin, that whenever Google Plus first hit the street, oh, is this a Facebook killer? Are people going to sign up? And wow, they've gotten 6 million, now it's 60 million. Is Facebook still around? I mean, all that's nonsense. There may be, and I would be interested in your opinion on this, but we may be hitting information overload with regard to groups. Where do you go to talk about podcasting? Do you go to LinkedIn? Do you go to a Google community? Do you join the Yahoo listserv? Well, you and I do all of the above, but where's the real traction going to be? That's going to take some time to shake out. I don't know the answer to that, but wherever it is, I want to be on the edge and watch it happen from the front row. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's why I'm excited to have you. And I've also added Greg Heyer to it, because Greg Heyer's led the best local to Raleigh community linking the triangle. And I know personally from his wife, he spent up to 6 hours a night monitoring that and managing it with over 15,000 participants. So he's earned his wings in managing. And what I'd like to do is, once we get a few people in here, now we have about 100, see if we can have a private hangout with the admins here and say, let's work together, come up with some rules for this. What's the best use? How could this add something more to its structure that are different from LinkedIn? I don't want to take anything away from that wonderful LinkedIn group as well. And see if there's a way we can learn something and let them evolve together. I do want to talk a little bit about what Google Plus is to me, and I want to thank Greg Heyer. He's the one that kind of we wrote the book on linking into sales, and we had the podcast Linking into Sales. And I said, Greg, it looks like this is interesting, but is Google Plus something to put my attention on? And he went, absolutely. Because what they're doing is they're not trying to be a social media platform from the ground up. They're trying to add a social component to your search experience to enhance it. Now, is it all right? Does it have clunky edges? Absolutely. It's a work in progress from a very large company. But the key to understand is, that company seemed to have told their employees, your future's in Google Plus, because if you look, all the top people from Google are in Google Plus. While over on Facebook, I'm not sure what he's doing, studying the stock and how people have been selling it. It almost looks like he may not be as comfortable with running a money-driven business, especially as Google has been, and Google's proven they know how to make some money with this. So it's a search, it's a social component to enhance your search experience, and a lot of the things, when I look at them, I see, since I've taught and wrote a book on social media, I see, oh, they got this from Twitter, oh, they got this from Facebook, and many times it looks like they actually improve the idea, like the idea of circles. That once you get it, that's a very natural way to organize people in your life. Most people don't even know how to use the group, the way to organize friends in Facebook, and then they have lists over in Twitter. So it seems like they are really working to put this as a lead product behind their engine, and Google has a lot of money to do it. So I almost view Facebook as the hare and Google as the tortoise over here, slowly bringing people in piece by piece with these products. Remember, our Google Hangout is cross-platform right now over every platform. Does it work perfectly? No. And I just lost you. And this is an example. Does it work perfectly? So, Mike, there we go. Mike, the point, remember, I was just saying there's some quirks in the system, right?
I don't know what happened here. My bandwidth was fine, but something just went hosed on the Google server, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. So anyway, to wrap it up, that's a little bit about the Google, my perspective, and I want to thank Greg Heyer on it, of what they're doing is a social layer to the search experience. And I can tell you, since I work with a lot of small businesses, the Google Local is a must to make sure you set up. Because if you have a coffee shop, you've got about $1,000 of more of advertising right in that alone. So Mike, I'll let you over to you, and then why don't we wrap it up? We've kind of introduced what we're doing in the relationship between LinkedIn group, which we still want to support as an outstanding group, and then see how this evolves differently.
Well, each group has a different attitude. I mean, the LinkedIn is, you have people there who are self-employed who don't care, but there are others of us who participate in LinkedIn for professional reasons. Everything we say and do is available to our colleagues and to our bosses and employees and things of that nature. So we have to all be on our best behavior there. I guess we can let our hair down a little bit more in the Google Hangout, but it's all good. I think each serves a purpose. Certainly, one benefit of the LinkedIn group is that its ability to archive information at this point, I think, is a lot more. It's a lot more usable than the information that may be scrolling off the bottom of the screen in the Google Hangout. That not Hangout, but the Google community. That part we will watch and see. That's the part that I really don't have my arms around yet, is the full user experience with regard to information scrolling by. For example, how do you cause, and maybe there's a way and it's just I don't understand it yet, but as in a news group, once you've read something, you can tell it to not show something you've already read. How can you do that on your timeline in Google community so that you don't sit there reading the same thing 3 or 4 times while you're scrolling through? It's going to be a learning experience for me, and again, I'm really happy to be a part of all of the above. It's really nice to have the button to push in case something doesn't work really well, because spam in a group, off-topic posts, sometimes rude things that people shouldn't be doing, that really causes people to want to leave, and we want this to be a good experience, and I'm going to use what available time I have and resources to try to help make it so, and welcome the input of anyone who, if they think that what we're doing is too heavy-handed or not heavy-handed enough, speak up. It's the group is there for everyone, and we want to know what you would like it to be as well.
Well said, Mike. Our commitment is encouraging people to really work together and share our love of podcasting, video casting. We've included, because it's obviously evolved with it. And when you go into the Google community, make sure to look at the little area on the left, introduce yourself there. That at least will have some organization with it. And I really want to thank you, Mike, for being part. We'll have other people on. This is the first one from the community, and it's a good one to just talk about the two groups. So again, this is Martin Brossman and Mike Phillips, and we're going to sign out for now. Thanks very much.
Thank you.